Societies for decades have tried to tame the unpredictable ocean or conquer the world through the sea, but none have been so successful as the ancient Polynesians, the greatest navigators in the world. The Polynesians navigated what would be the largest landmass in the world without even a compass to help guide them. How the ancient Polynesians reached all of those remote islands with essentially Stone Age technology is one of the greatest feats of human ingenuity in history. The wit and daring required to succeed at this perfectly encompasses everything that makes us human and sets us apart from simple animals. Before the invention of the compass, maps, GPS, Google Maps, or even a written language, Polynesian wayfinding was developed. Polynesian wayfinding was developed as a way to sail vast distances of uncharted ocean, settle new land, and explore the unknown world using orally taught and specialized navigational techniques. And through its revitalization, it helped bring back Polynesian culture from extinction. Using Polynesian wayfinding, ancient and modern Polynesians crossed new frontiers. Ancient Polynesians crossed new frontiers through Polynesian wayfinding by colonizing new islands and creating a unique culture. A revitalization in wayfinding brought Polynesian culture from extinction, and it allows modern Polynesians to cross new frontiers through a deeper love, value, and understanding of their culture. The Pacific Ocean is very vast, very deep, and absolutely humongous. The Pacific Ocean takes up more than 1/3 of the Earth's surface, and every single landmass on Earth could fit in it, with space left over. And considering how small, and in some cases tiny, the islands in the Pacific are, compared to the vast space of water that surrounds it, it shows how brave the ancient Pacific Islanders were, when, in around 1500, they set sail from Southeast Asia into the watery world. To help Polynesian wayfinders navigate the vast Pacific Ocean, they relied on natural techniques and working in kinship with the world around them to navigate through the vast Pacific Ocean.
So they used the stars. They also used the sun, you know, how the sun, the waves, the birds. So everything to do with wayfinding was all natural.
The success of a voyage also relied on a number of factors, such as well-built canoes, the skill of navigators, and weather being some of the biggest. All these helped wayfinders see the ocean not as a vast land of nothingness, but as a series of highways. Voyages relied on sturdy double-hulled canoes called vahakalua.
The Alia, the double-hulled ocean voyaging canoes, and they had central platforms. So they were actually able to carry and transport a lot of people in one go, for example. And the theory is that a lot of these large-scale migrations, across the Pacific, were actually done as fleets. They were done with an intention to actually migrate to a new land and settle, and hopefully find a new land and then settle a new land. So a lot of factors play into that, the size and shape of them. Polynesian canoes, I guess, were a lot larger, and this is going back thousands of years ago. Well before the Chinese Empire and their massive canoes, long before the Vikings, were traveling across the northern seas to Europe and all of that. So it's actually quite ingenious what they were doing.
For a successful sailing voyage, you needed very good knowledge of wind patterns and ocean currents. A strong current can be your friend or foe, helping carry you where you want to go or where you don't want to go. Navigators also took advantage of trade wind-generated swells.
If you see an island, for example, the waves would be crashing against it. And these effects do ripple out in the open ocean, so that the navigators would know that, okay, so we are nearing island because of the nature of the waves. So it sort of goes like that. Yeah, sort of goes like that around the island. So they knew that when you are nearing islands, for example, the ways in which certain swells occur is connected to the impact of an island and the energy of that particular wind, and also the clouds above, the islands, for example. So that they would know immediately that we're nearing island because of the nature of the 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 swells or the nature of the waves that are occurring at a particular time. So they would test using birds, for example. So frigate birds, for example, they traveled with frigate birds because frigate birds were able to, they would send out the frigate bird. If the frigate bird didn't come back, it meant that there was land nearby.
Contrary to what you might believe, night was actually the most important to wayfinders. You see, at night, navigators used something called a star compass or star map. This wasn't a physical map, but rather a mental map that memorized the rising and setting points of stars and constellations at different times of year. Navigators would have to have memorized over 100 different stars and patterns, and remember them at just the right moment. If you knew the place where they came out of the ocean and go back into the ocean, if you could identify the stars as they rise and set, and if you could memorize where they rise and set at what time of year, you can find your direction. They used their knowledge to divide the sky into 4 quadrants, subdivided into 32 houses, with the canoe in the middle. For example, when they saw the star Pia Terrera rising from the ocean, they knew they were northeast. For decades, the prevailing theory on wayfinding was that it was caused by, quote, accidental drift voyage by the Polynesians, but this was soon disproven when in 1973, Michael Levinson, Gerald Ward, and John W. Webb ran over 100 simulations of potential Polynesian drift voyages, and they proved that accidental drift voyages were near impossible. None of the simulated voyages managed to reach land. This showed the world that the Polynesians had migrated with intent and forethought. Now that the researchers knew this for sure, they decided to prove it. You see, all this time, Polynesian wayfinding and Polynesian culture had been experiencing a powerful collapse.
By the 21st century, a lot of our travel and our traditional ways had really gone. The only things that really remained in the Pacific were some of our more obvious cultural things like our dances, our singing, some of our traditional rituals. But a lot of it really has to do with the impact from outside people.
In 1976, a 19-meter-long replica of an ancient voyaging canoe named the Hokulea wanted to start sailing the traditional way and provide evidence of how the Polynesians sailed out of Asia. They were able to thanks to Mao Pilong. Mao had been sailing traditionally since the age of 4 and was passionate about keeping the culture alive for the next generation and making sure it survived through the modern day. Using Mao's traditional knowledge, they were able to sail from Hawaii to Tahiti the traditional way. Upon the Hokulea's arrival in the Papatiri harbor, the crew were greeted by over half the island's population. 17,000 people in that harbor watched their culture undergo a rebirth. It proved what their ancestors knew all along, that they were the explorers, that they led the way. And while other societies were clinging to the shorelines, the Polynesians, fueled by wit and the human spirit, ventured into the vast ocean, and they became the greatest navigators in history. Polynesian wayfinding and Polynesian culture was awakened thanks to the Hokulea. Soon the Hokulea would complete voyages to Rapa Nui, New Zealand, and even a voyage around the whole world. Naona Thompson trained under Mao and is the first modern-day Polynesian to learn and use wayfinding for long-distance, open ocean voyaging. He's begun training new navigators from Hawaii and other Pacific islands to perpetuate their tradition. With organizations like the Polynesian Voyaging Society, who tries to take a voyage every year, and the numerous Polynesian universities and research centers, and the everyday Polynesians who are inspired by Polynesian wayfinding to take a greater interest in their culture, wayfinding is kept alive.
But yeah, I think it is really legacy. It serves as a symbol to the cultural identity of Pacific people in general.
To me, it's a really sort of like a really emotional thing for me, because it's like really it's a traditional way that we existed in the past, and it's part of our identity as well as a Polynesian person.
To the Polynesian people, wayfinding is a source of pride and an example of their ancestors' brilliance and the cunning of their culture. Through wayfinding, many modern Polynesians gain a deeper understanding and respect for their culture. Through wayfinding, ancient Polynesians and modern Polynesians can cross new frontiers.